Good evening and welcome to this meeting of Full Council. I'm Councillor Tony Vickers, Chairman of West Berkshire Council. The meeting is being live streamed via YouTube, so members of the public are able to follow proceedings. Council members are present in the council chamber for this meeting. Any members of council who are in attendance remotely will be entitled to speak and ask questions when invited to do so by myself. The officers in attendance this evening are the Executive Director for Adult Social Care, Paul Coe, the Executive Director for Place, Claire Lawrence, and the Service Director for Strategy and Governance, Martin Sargent. Nicola Thomas, the Deputy Monitoring Officer, will be the legal advisor to the meeting, and I welcome Honorary Alderman in attendance. Before we start this evening's meeting, I would like to take the opportunity to remind members that we are subject to the Council's Code of Conduct, which requires us to uphold certain standards, importantly, respect. Members across the chamber may not always agree with one another, but I would ask that in our disagreements, we endeavour to always be respectful of others' views. I would also like to ask that members of the public attending this meeting do not interrupt or speak outside of your designated speaking slots. Also, please refrain from approaching councillors unless you're invited to do so. And during the meeting, when a motion has been proposed and seconded, I will ask the Deputy Monitoring Officer to conduct the vote by a show of hands. Agenda item 1, apologies for absence. Deputy Monitoring Officer, have we any apologies?
Thank you, Chairman. We have received apologies from Councillors Martin Colston, Heather Codling, Patrick Clark, Jane Langford, Dennis Bennyworth, Clive Hooker, Eric Patterson, Janine Lewis, who is attending online, Matt Shakespeare, who is also attending online, Jeff Mays attending online, and Councillor McKinnon. I'm not sure whether Councillor McKinnon is intending to attend online. He is. We've also received apologies from Honorary Aldermen Hilary Cole, Anthony Stanfield, Andrew Rolls, Molly Locke, Graham Bridgman, Paul Bryant and Rick Jones. Are there any apologies from the floor?
There being none, the next item, item 2, is Chairman's remarks. I have attended 15 engagements since the last scheduled full council meeting on the 16th of October. And the theme of remembrance came back as we neared Armistice Day. But my first appearance in late October was at Streatley to cut the ribbon for a new, fully accessible public footpath that was created, but only on paper, at least 15 years ago. And it should attract visitors to this corner of our North Wessex Downs, and funding to ensure that it was fully built was coming from the National Rail Network for the Mend the Gap project managed by the Chilterns Landscape for us. It had caused harm to the local landscape, protected landscape. Then celebrating the 80th anniversary of the founding of the United Nations was a chance yet again to remember why, since 1945, until at least the 1990s, our generation experienced peace until the Berlin Wall came down. Then we had the Newbury Samaritans AGM, which was an emotional event. We heard from a parent who turned the tragedy of his own student son committing suicide into hope for others by working to improve the monitoring of mental health among tomorrow's undergraduates at several university authorities. I attended Sainsbury's Poppy Appeal at Calcott. Then on Remembrance Day, I watched Newbury Marketplace fill with uniformed veterans and tiny cubs and brownies. On Armistice Day, I met the Great Western Railway Poppy train, which is a wonderful innovation. It stopped at Hungerford to pick up wreaths from myself and the Mayor. At this month's citizenship ceremony, a sign of the times was meeting an entire family of US citizens in our district on their journey to become British citizens. Then we had the amazing Greenham Trust Charity Award ceremony with Marcus Brigstock as compere in the Corn Exchange, followed the next day by the no less important Learner Achievement Awards from our own adult learners in Shaw House. I then chaired the United Nations Association's Southern Region Outreach event in Newbury, as their members reflected on the COP event, which was starting that very weekend in Brazil. I then reflected on the shocking increase in numbers and suicides worldwide of young transgender people in recent years at the launch of a film made by the Reading and Newbury Pride groups last week. Then at the weekend, just the last weekend, reflected on how the vandalism at Sycamore Gap in 2023 turned into the Trees of Hope project of the National Trust, one of which the Greenham Group bid for and won, and that got some national publicity for them and for us by having been planted right next to the Greenham Control Tower, very appropriately. But the most moving event of all took Martha and myself to Thame, the opposite end of the proposed Ridgeway Council area, where the 20th annual World Remembrance for Road Death Victims Memorial Service was held, remembering those whose lives have been lost not in wartime, but through carelessness or outright criminal behaviour on our roads. This is organised by Thames Valley Police and focused largely on the trauma that fatal road accidents leaves in their wake, especially with our brave and caring emergency service teams, as well as the families of everyone involved. 1.2 million people worldwide die this way every year, and most of those are in the poorer parts of the world. I will now ask the Vice Chair to tell you a little bit about the event she's attended.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've been able to attend the Diwali celebration in Thatcham, organised by Community United. I went to a huge achievement event for children in care, organised by us at the racecourse. I attended the Glow Rides in Newbury. That was organised by Newbury Road Club and Newbury Velo, and that was all women cycling. I was able to attend Thatcham Remembrance, and the last one I did was Purley-on-Thames annual chairman's reception. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stevenson. Item 3 now is the minutes of the last ordinary council meeting held on the 16th of October 2025. I will propose that it be signed as a correct record. Can I ask for a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Brooke.
Second.
Are there any amendments from the floor, please? There being none, I would ask the Deputy Monitoring Officer to conduct a vote by the show of hands.
Please, could I have a show of hands of all those in favour of adopting the minutes? Thank you. Are there any against? Any abstentions? Thank you. Okay.
Item 4, declarations of interest. Deputy Monitoring Officer, have there been any declarations of interest submitted prior to the meeting?
Thank you, Chairman. None have been received ahead of the meeting. Are there any interests to be declared from the floor? Thank you.
Being none, petitions are next. We have been given prior notice that Councillor Caroline Culver would like to present a petition to Council. May I invite you to present the petition, briefly summarise it, and inform Council about the number of signatories. Note that there is no formal speech allowed, that you're not going to have the clock set on you.
Thank you very much indeed, Chairman. You'll recall that we passed a motion about this recently. This is a petition from members of the public, which pretty much reflects what the content of that motion was. The petition to the Council to commit to divest the local government pension scheme fund administered by the Berkshire Pension Fund from companies complicit in Israel's genocide and apartheid against Palestinians. This includes arms companies supplying Israel with weapons and military technology, companies providing infrastructure for Israel's unlawful military occupation of Palestinian land, and companies conducting business activity in Israel's illegal settlements on stolen Palestinian land. Also, to end procurement contracts with any companies complicit in Israel's attacks, and also to terminate all banking arrangements with NatWest, which provides financing to companies supplying Israel with weapons and companies linked to illegal settlements on stolen Palestinian land. 53 people signed this e-petition and around 15 people signed the paper petition. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Culver. I believe, as you said, that this is very similar to the motion that we have recently discussed. Officers will review the petition and confirm within 10 days what action will be taken, but I suspect it will merge with that motion that is already scheduled, I believe, to be debated. We have also been made aware of another potential petition from the chairman of West Ilsley Parish Council. Is Councillor Tim Peary present? Would you like to do the same as you've just heard Councillor Culver do? Just present your position by giving a brief summary and then informing the council about the number of signatories.
Thank you, Chairman. The petition is to implement a formal weight restriction on Berry Lane, which is a narrow rural road which runs north of the village. Often heavy goods vehicles, when the A34 is disrupted, are diverted through this lane, which is deeply inadequate to take these vehicles. The petition has been signed by, I think, 70 people online, and I have a further 76 signatures here. Really, what stimulated this was an incident in February this year when we had numerous HGVs going through the village, causing an enormous amount of destruction and damage to verges, to pavements, and also a telegraph pole which was knocked down, as well as a resident who was nearly struck when one of the HGVs had to mount the pavement. So really, this is to help prevent disruption, prevent further damage, and to really mitigate against the very real risk of loss of life.
Thank you very much for that explanation, Councillor Peary. I empathise with that. In my ward, we have the M4 going west to east, and similar problems occur when there are issues on the A34 and the M4. We're blessed to have them when we want to get somewhere, but this will be like the last petition. You will hear from officers in 10 days what action will be taken with it. Thank you very much. May I ask, are there any other petitions to be presented? There being none, 6 public questions. I wish to thank the members of the public that have submitted questions. The maximum amount of time allocated in this meeting for public questions is 30 minutes. If we run out of time, any questions that are yet to be asked will receive written responses following the meeting. The questions will appear on screen and be answered by the relevant portfolio holder. Questioners will be given the opportunity to ask a supplementary question. This should be to clarify the response provided and must not introduce any new business. As the Leader of Council, Councillor Jeff Brooks, will be responding to questions A and C. Due to these portfolio holders issuing their apologies for this meeting, the response to any supplementary question will be delivered to the questioner after the meeting in writing. First question from Lee Allen.
I assume Mr. Allen is in the Zoom.
I've got a nod.
Thank you very much. Mr. Allen, thank you for your question. We, of course, share your concern on the rising levels of poverty, obesity, and asthma amongst our children. The causes of these issues are complex and multifaceted, consisting of structural, individual, and environmental factors. Therefore, solutions to address these issues require a whole system approach, working with partners and policymakers that support those most in need. And obviously, I would give an example of health as part of those partners. The Council and partners undertake a range of initiatives and work programmes that aim to support those experiencing hardship and to improve health and well-being. Since 2022, the Council has been a major participant in the Local Poverty Forum, which brings together the voluntary sector, Greenman Trust and the Council to ensure that limited resources, including the Household Support Fund, are effectively targeted to meet local needs in the most efficient way. This included the delivery of the Cost of Living Hub in 2022-23 to act as a central point of coordination and to identify wider health and safeguarding issues. An updated version of the Hub will shortly be relaunched under the Let's Talk initiative. The Council is also looking to support households in financial need through a new Lift platform that will use data analytics and policy-driven insights to help identify and support financially vulnerable households to access state benefits to which they are entitled, including preschool meals. In relation to obesity, the Council has recently undertaken a healthy weight needs assessment to understand the levels of childhood excess weight across the district and identify actions to reduce prevalence. We already provide a range of services to support children, including a Healthy Schools programme, a cooking and nutrition programme delivered by the family hubs, as well as sensory circuits, physical activity programme for children with learning disabilities. The Council also provides a range of leisure and sport activities through Everyone Active to support children to maintain a healthy weight. The prevention and treatment of asthma is a shared responsibility between the Council and the local National Health Service. This includes preventative measures looking to reduce environmental hazards, such as air pollution, to ensuring people attend their annual reviews with their GP. The Council has recently funded, through the Public Health Grant, our environmental health team to conduct a 12-month pilot to proactively seek out properties where patients are presenting with ill health and undertake damp and mold assessments, as we know that this can impact respiratory health. I hope that's helped. And the supplementary, as the chairman says, will be in a written answer. You may obviously ask us what it is now, but as I'm not the portfolio holder, I'm not going to presume that I would necessarily be able to field your supplementary. But do you have a supplementary, please, Mr. Allen?
Yes, I do, Councillor, and thank you for your incredibly detailed response. I just like to quickly ask, how has it been allowed to get as bad as it is? And 54% increase in child poverty since 2014 is a lot. I'd like to ask, how is it allowed to get that bad?
We have noted your supplementary, Mr. Allen, and you will get a
Thank you.
written answer. The next question is from Mr. Richard Garvey. Councillor Pemberton will answer it.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. And again, I'm assuming Mr. Garvey
Is Mr. Garvey
with us online?
around? Yes.
I'm here.
Yes, well, good evening, Mr. Garvey, and thank you for your question currently on screen. You may have seen that Reading Borough Council have now stepped back from their claims to 5 West Berkshire Council wards and have removed Pangbourne and Thiel from their proposals. Whilst I am pleased that Reading have acknowledged by these changes that their proposals were flawed, it is disappointing that they have not abandoned this in its entirety. There is significant evidence to support the fact that residents of West Berkshire do not wish to be part of Reading. This has been evident via multiple consultation and engagement sessions that have been undertaken by this council over a considerable period of time. I can assure you and all our residents, particularly those living in the wards of Tilehurst South and Holybrook, Tilehurst and Purley, and Tilehurst Birch Copse, that this council opposes these proposals, and we have every intention of continuing to oppose these proposals by Reading should they be progressed further. We are unable, however, to resolve to undertake further parish polls similar to Thiel, as that is a legal process that is only available following the resolution of a parish meeting. Do you have a supplementary question, Mr. Garvey?
I do, and I note the last part of your answer there. Approximately how much would it cost to do a parish poll, or instead of a parish poll, a poll of each ward, the three Tilehurst wards? Do you have a rough approximate cost of how much that would cost per ward? And if not, can you provide that to me in writing at a later stage? Thank you.
Thank you for your supplementary question, Mr. Garvey. The best person to ask that question to would be the ward member for Thiel. I'm obviously not in a position to do that because they recently ran a parish poll, which you will be aware of. I believe off the top of my head that the cost of an individual parish poll is something in the order of £1,000. Per poll is £1,000. That poll is arranged by West Berkshire Council and charged back to the parish. So that's per parish poll held.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garvey. Mr. Allen, you have question C to ask? Again, it'll be councillor Brooks to answer.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. We made a decision to consult on these measures. That was strongly informed by the strength of support which was shown for the resource centres. In terms of consulting on the potential closure, we were given to believe that the voluntary sector could pick up the vast majority of those services that we were providing. In reality, that didn't stack up after we did the work. I do not accept that there was a U-turn. When you consult, you are gathering evidence. And it's not a U-turn, and having gathered that evidence, you decide not to go ahead. So I reject your wording. It was clear, though, after the consultation, that these are highly valued facilities, and you will appreciate that it would be disingenuous and irresponsible of any leader to sign up to the sort of perpetual guarantee you appear to be asking. But I will say this. There are no plans to close or privatise or reduce access to the resource centres. We plan to maximise the value that the community gains from them and the cost-benefit ratio so that they operate as efficiently as possible. We can put more services into those resource centres. We can make them more accessible for other members of the public through family hubs and the like. So we expect we will include additional uses on top of their current core function, and that is the best way forward, and that is what the consultation told us. Do you have a supplementary?
Thank you, Councillor Brooks. My supplementary is, if it were to be looked into in future, would a supplementary of similar with the community be launched again to ensure that the services are able to be provided for residents?
Well, I could avoid the supplementary, but I've said what I've said in terms of we're committed to them. We're committed to them. This administration is committed to the resource centres, having done that work. That I can't be more clear than that, I don't think. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Thank you, councillor Brooks. Question D is again from Mr. Garvey, and councillor Brooks will again answer that one.
Thank you, Mr. Garvey. I'm pleased to let you know that the consultation is not flawed. It is in line with the regulations for statutory consultations, which state that the council must inform objectors of the decision at the end of the process. Hence why the details are asked for of objectors in this instance. However, we acknowledge we can make this better, and we will be amending future consultations to ask for personal details for all respondents, not just objectors, as per legislation. And we've been using and introduced the well-known survey software, SurveyMonkey, as another avenue for consultation, as well as written submissions, meaning we've made our consultation far more accessible. Lots and lots of people have used SurveyMonkey over the years, are used to it, and I believe it is already benefiting our consultation process. Do you have a supplementary?
I think the concern was that people could anonymously support this proposal as many times as they wanted, and the fear from those who objected was that they could only object once, putting them at a disadvantage. I am pleased that you are going to take those misgivings or concerns into account in future. And again, per the second part of my question, hopefully there will be another consultation next year on pedestrianisation, because I don't think everybody's against it. I think it's just it just needs tweaks. Thank you.
I will come back briefly because the consultation has concluded, as you know, and we have to work our way through what that's told us. So to talk of another consultation is premature, as we haven't even considered the results of the present one. Thank you.
Thank you both, councillor Brooks, Mr. Garvey. Questionee is Lee Allen again, and it's Councillor McCann to answer you.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for your question. Your question implies 2 points that I'd just like to clarify. You imply that there is an increase in crime, and you imply that the lights have been dimmed. To my knowledge, the council has not dimmed the lights, and to our knowledge, there hasn't been an increase in crime. In fact, the council has made rather a lot of efforts to make sure that when this pedestrianisation took place, it was monitored very carefully. And unless you have access to information that the council doesn't, it would appear that your question is fundamentally flawed. Thank you very much, Mr. Allen. Supplementary, please.
Thank you, Councillor McCann. I'm more than happy to send you the report I looked at from Thames Valley Police on the matter. But my question would be that, after I send it over, will this be taken into account in potentially dropping the pedestrianisation and reverting it back to the previous model?
Of course, if you have access to information that the council doesn't have, we would gladly look at any information and, of course, encourage the police to forward with any of their statistics and data to confirm the information that you're presenting. This council takes its responsibility to its community and its residents very seriously, and we will do so in the future. Thank you very much for your question.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Mr. Garvey, you have another question which Councillor Stuart Gawley will answer.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and thank you, Mr. Garvey, for the question. We've received over 3,200 responses to the consultation, which has proved an excellent public engagement exercise. And as part of this, we've engaged directly with residents, businesses and other stakeholders. Officers and members are currently analysing the consultation responses, and until this analysis is complete, it would be remiss of me to offer decisions and next steps at this point. Once this analysis is completed, we will continue to work with organisations like Newbury Bid, local businesses, the Town Council and community organisations to help shape the longer term outcome. Do you have a supplementary?
On this occasion, I don't. Thank you, Councillor.
Then the final question, because question G was withdrawn, from you again, Mr. Garvey, moving east to another town in this district.
Yes, thank you for this question. The consultation recently closed and officers are analysing the responses to this. At this point, it is too early to answer this question. Do you have a supplementary question?
Thank you, Councillor. Do we have any idea of when we could expect the results from this consultation? Obviously, some of my other questions were disallowed for this meeting because the subject matter was similar. So if we ask again in 2 months or 4 months, a similar question asking for these results, I don't want you to say that you can't answer it. So could you give us a timeline of when we'd be able to get some information relating to this consultation? Thank you.
Yes, so there was a significant number of responses to that consultation, and that will take some time to work through to make sure we get the right solution. So at this point, I can't confirm exactly when that will be, but certainly I would like to get it done as quickly as we possibly can.
Thank you.
That concludes item 6. The next item 7 is for membership of committees, and we've received the following proposed changes to the membership of committees. Charlie Gale and Natasha Rowe will be appointed as young person co-opted members of the Children and Young People Scrutiny Committee, and that second half of the proposed change is that Emily Daly be appointed as a primary school governor, co-opted member of the Children and Young People Scrutiny Committee. So please could I have a proposer to this motion?
Very happy to second.
Would you like to say anything to the motion or?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Just
Thank you. You wish to say anything, Councillor Jeffrey?
These are not words that you'll often hear in this chamber, but I think I'd like to say that I second very much what Councillor Burke has just said.
I don't believe there needs to be any debate on this, members. Can I ask the Deputy Monitoring Officer to conduct a vote by show of hands?
Thank you. Can I have a show of hands of all those in favour? Any against? And any abstentions? Thank you. I can confirm that's been carried.
And I understand, Leader, there are no other changes to committees that you wish to propose or the opposition. Yes, Councillor Brooks.
Are you aware that there is a little bit of tuning to the portfolios that I think should be taken in?
Yes. Do explain, please, Councillor Brooks.
Very much. I'm tuning some of the responsibilities of some front bench members with a number of adjustments. For most of the front bench, these changes either did not affect them or simply add one or two new responsibilities consistent with the areas they presently cover, and I'll walk through them. There's no change to the portfolios of Patrick Clark, who remains responsible for adult social care and public health, Heather Codling, who remains responsible for education and children and family services, as well as being the deputy leader, Denise Gaines, who remains responsible for planning and housing, Stuart Gawley, who remains responsible for highways and environment, and Nigel Foote, who remains responsible for sport, culture, leisure and countryside, as well as being the chairman of the Health and Wellbeing Board. So far, a non-announcement. However, there are some changes to the portfolios of Ian Cottingham, who remains responsible for finance and resources, comprising audit and risk, revenue and benefits, elections and property, accepting that Tom McCann will work with Ian to monitor all property projects and the good management of our built estate. All property projects and the good management of our built estate. This is an area of concern, and Councillor McCann will look at it. Ian will still be responsible for property asset finance, including valuations and disposals. Councillor Justin Pemberton will remain responsible for economic development, local government review and devolution, community engagement, and building communities together, but will also now take on responsibility for voluntary sector relationships and other partnerships, providing a new front bench focus on these two very important areas. We introduced the voluntary sector memorandum of understanding. Now we are shining a light on it through a front bench member saying, how can we work with the voluntary sector better? Tom McCann remaining responsible for the Joint Public Protection Partnership and Public Safety and the built estate. And as I said earlier, with an emphasis on the good management of our property portfolio and the projects that maintain and enhance them. We are hearing of more and more assets that need work and need work quite rapidly. And Tom will look at that. Vicky Poole will take over the responsibility for strategy and governance, comprising performance, legal services, HR, and procurement and commissioning, as well as a new responsibility for the front bench, commercialisation, and the identification of new income opportunities across the council's assets and estate. We have opportunity to drive new revenue streams if we get onto this commercialisation agenda proper, and it can help us with our financial challenges, which, as you know, are very severe indeed. I will take on personally the responsibility for transformation, ICT, customer services, and the project management office, except for the projects around our built environment, which are within Tom's responsibilities as above. I take this opportunity to thank all the executive members for their hard work and commitment to their areas of responsibility and their support for each other as we continue to deliver very good outcomes across the council. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Brooks. And there is in addition one minor change, further change to the Children and Young People Scrutiny Committee. Councillor Janine Lewis and Councillor Billy Drummond will swap positions so that Councillor Drummond becomes a full member and Councillor Lewis becomes a substitute member of that committee. Moving to agenda item 8, motions from previous meetings. There were no motions, I'm told, from previous meetings that need updates, so there's no need for a vote on anything there. Item 9 is updates from committees. You have them listed, the committees which have met since the last meeting, so there's no need for a vote there. Item 10, devolution. Thames Valley Mayoral Strategic Authority expression of interest. May I invite Councillor Justin Pemberton as portfolio holder to formally move the recommendation contained within the report.
So moved, Chair.
May I ask for a seconder?
Happy to second, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor. Reserve your right.
Yes, I'll reserve my right at this stage. Thank you.
Councillor Pemberton, would you like to introduce the report?
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much, Chair. Members, the government's white paper talked about both devolution and local government reorganisation. I'm pleased that we've now submitted our proposals for LGR, but this evening I want to talk about the Council's interest and others within the Thames Valley region to submit an expression of interest to central government for a mayoral strategic authority. The white paper is clear that the government intends all of England to be devolved by default, and it's committed to ending the deals-based approach which we currently have. The government will legislate for a ministerial directive which will enable it to directly create strategic authorities in any places where local leaders in that region have not been able to agree how to access devolved powers. Therefore, the do nothing option could mean government legislating on our behalf for that devolution piece. Currently, mayoral strategic authorities cover roughly 60% of England, and lots of those, we know that many of those are located in the north. We're aware of the ones, the existing arrangements in places like London, Manchester, the West Midlands, and closer to home, there is actually the West of England Combined Authority, not so far away. There are currently further areas awaiting approval, and the approach to these strategic authorities is really around enabling growth, and it's that growth really which is at the heart of this to help unlock job creation, investment development and so on. So when we're considering some of the things that a potential strategic authority will be responsible for, it really is those kind of big infrastructure pieces, so enabled by things like spatial planning at a strategic level, skills development, working with industry to try and encourage investment. But the other aspect is also around public sector reform. Because we know that the fragmented system of government doesn't really work in many respects. It's not just local government that is fragmented, as we discussed through the proposed Ridgeway Council. It's central government as well. And, you know, we've got health authorities, we've got police authorities, we've got fire authorities, lots of tiers of government. And this is an opportunity, if you like, to consolidate some of those bodies in this exercise. The government itself has said that this is good for governance and bureaucracy. We don't want to be micromanaged from the centre. So it's about getting growth moving in every corner of the country. MHCLG has made very, very clear the direction of travel that it wants to see. And then it's up to the mayors to determine how some of those spending priorities and growth areas will be considered. Obviously, not all of the various local councils within a region can be the best at communicating with each other. So it's much, much easier for central government to be dealing with a number of mayors rather than many, many more local government leaders. The exact nature of the governance structure of these mayoral strategic authorities hasn't yet been determined. If the government was minded to support an MSA, a mayoral strategic authority here in Thames Valley, that governance structure will be developed with the input of these local authorities, ourselves included. But what we do know is that the mayor will be elected and there will be a board established, which will include the leaders of those councils that I mentioned just a moment ago, including, in many cases, voting rights, again, to be confirmed. So the opportunities from having these responsibilities, powers and funding down to that regional level. So additional funding and programmes in the last 4 years alone. So some of those existing mayoral strategic authorities that exist since 2021, there's £16 billion worth of funding that has been awarded through things like devolved transport budgets, transforming cities funds, we've got housing infrastructure funds, adult related funding, as well as specific real regional projects. So it's a real driver of growth. And I know that the elected members here would want to ensure that we don't lose out on on that infrastructure investment, on those skills investment, on opportunities to improve our housing and transport. And although Thames Valley has continued to perform strongly, our local and regional economy hasn't grown post-COVID in the way that we would aspire to, or certainly in comparison to some other regions in those post-COVID years. So I do still want to celebrate what we've got. We've got lots of education and business talent here, but I want to build on it. I want to build on our highways infrastructure. When we're looking at those active travel networks, I also want to build on that. And when we're looking at some of those housing shortfalls that we've got to close to provide that housing that we desperately need to attract people to come and work here so they can afford to live here, I want to build on that. So it's really about securing that infrastructure and the skills which are essential for long-term prosperity. Thank you very much, Chair.
Perfect timing, Councillor Pemberton. Thank you. I now open the debate to the floor, and I have Councillor Abbs putting his hand up.
Yeah, thanks very much. I want to really cover 3 points here: the validity of any election that would take place, the practicality of actually having a mayor, and the actual results of having one. I think if we look at the metro mayors at the moment, we get about 30 to 40%. Non-metro mayors, 30% of the people vote. PPCs, it's 18%, and we're already seeing those being got rid of because most of them are a bit useless. Something like 17% of people are not even registered to vote, as we saw in the general election. So that's 8 million people there. So 30% of the 83 is 25% of the vote, basically, 25%. And no party really gets more than 50%. So what we're going to have is a mayor elected from about 12.5%. So it doesn't sound very democratic to me, 12.5% of the people choosing a politically aligned mayor, which is essentially what we're going to get here. The practicality of having a mayor, well, complexity of responsibility, who will do what, complexity of the borders, they're unlikely to be coterminous, complexity of the staffing, are they going to come from the councils, are we going to hire new people, the extra costs of actually having this extra layer at a time when everybody says we've got no money. So that even we do all that and we get it, the actual results of having one, there is absolutely no guarantee that the funding will even come here. We have for decades now had a shift of funding northwards. So Andy Berman, I'm sure, has done extremely well out of all this. Well, why wouldn't he if he's given all the money? Just because you sit at the table doesn't guarantee that you will get money. So having a local mayor and an expression of interest of having a mayor guarantees us nothing. So we're simply adding complexity to sit at a table where the South is not the priority of any party in recent times. The red wall has been where the money's been going. And to say to people, well, we better have one because if you don't, you won't get anything, just sounds like a threat. And I'm starting a bit tired of threats from government. You know, do more for us because, you know, you should be doing more for us. Everybody else deserves it but you. And that's what the South is turning into, being told we're very rich, we can afford to give it all away. The mayor, in my mind, won't help. And therefore, I would not support having a letter of interest. I'd much rather write to them and say, actually, thanks very much. Let's just remove more complexity. The Ridgeway, I can just about get behind if we must, but that's coming at the same time as a mayoral layer. It's a recipe for disaster. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Abbs. Councillor Bowick. Thank you. I think Councillor Culver did have to have her hand up, or was that Councillor Marsh?
I think Councillor Marsh,
both.
Chairman,
Oh,
first.
I thought it might be Councillor Marsh. All right, over to you then, Councillor Marsh.
Thank you, Chair. I think Councillor Abbs has dealt extremely eloquently and persuasively with the democratic deficit argument. I'd just like to say, be careful what you wish for every Andrew Burnham, and I've used the free bus service in Manchester when visiting family. It's excellent. I love it. For every Andy Burnham, who is doing a good job, I think, there's an Andrea Jenkins, the Reform UK Mayor of Lincolnshire, who doesn't live in Lincolnshire. And while Andy Burnham is putting money into public transport, she's putting money into increasing spending on her office from £115,000 a year to £262,000. That's the first thing Reform have done, and I don't think we'd want that kind of thing happening here. The reason that I'm not going to vote for this is that the Green Party opposes the entire model for strategic mayoral authorities. We believe that it centralises power, creates a democratic deficit, and undermines local accountability. We think it's a form of centralisation, not devolution. It puts power into the hand of one person. Okay, there'll be council leaders there. They might be from different parties, different areas, and disagree with each other. I mean, I'm all for consensus trying to emerge. That's how we do things. But I'm not sure that when one person has the ultimate decision, that sounds like a very democratic process that is necessarily going to serve our residents well. We believe in a local first approach. Other parties pay lip service to this. We actually believe in it, where decisions are made at the most local level possible, not the highest level possible, immediately below the government. We also believe that mayoral authorities over large geographical areas reduce representation for smaller communities. As I say, be careful what you wish for. The Police and Crime Commissioner, which quite rightly I think are being abolished, but cover a very similar area to the area likely to be covered by this authority, has got almost no credibility. The current Police and Crime Commissioner was elected by 8% of the people of Thames Valley. And if anything like that were to happen, or even if it's not substantially better, then again, there's going to be a serious lack of democratic accountability for whichever mayor we may end up with. So we would say, let's be cautious about this. I'm surprised that that people who are so critical of the government are jumping so readily to the government's proposals for the reason which we oppose for the reasons I've said. And this grow baby grow philosophy that we hear from the government all the time at the expense of the environment, I think it's really disappointing to see the only thing in here is about economic growth, not the quality of life and other aspects, health and well-being, other aspects that are really valuable to our people. It isn't just about grow baby grow. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Marsh. Did you have your hand up, Councillor Wollaston? I think you're next then, and Councillor Jeffrey after that. Oh, yes.
Thank you, Chairman. I was going to say this is probably completely uncontroversial, but clearly it's not. I've read the papers twice now, and forgive me if I've missed it. But I can't see exactly what area is meant to be included within the mayoralty. I'm assuming it's Berkshire and Oxfordshire, but it would be helpful to have some confirmation. Thank you.
Councillor Jeffrey.
Mr. Chairman, twice in one evening, I fear I'm going to find that I'm saying something pretty similar to Councillor Bowick. I'm going to have to really think about this quite hard. I think that every member of this council needs to face some very, very brutal reality. If the government in this country wants something to happen, it will happen. If the government has a majority, and the current government has a very large majority in the House of Commons, if they want it, it will take place. So quite simply, and I have a great deal of sympathy with the words that Councillor Marsh has used, but the reality is, let us make this work for our community, because it is coming down the line. before this government finishes its term of office, this will be in place, and let's get the best possible deal for our community, our area. And that's really about it. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I share many of the concerns that have been made by the speakers before me. I think all of them have made good points. But along with the remarks of Councillor Jeffrey, I particularly share his view that this is coming down the line. And I think there is a great danger if we didn't take this up, we could get completely left behind if many other areas and other authorities take up a mayor and we don't. And, you know, I can sort of then see where the money's likely to be going to those that have the mayoral authorities and perhaps less so to those that don't. Now, I do understand the risk, and I do worry about who might be elected, and, you know, concerns about particular policy areas like children and young people. I was also, just to repeat the point that was made, I am concerned over the geographical area that this will cover, and it's not clear to me at the moment as to whether that's, well at least my understanding is that hasn't been agreed, and I do worry that we don't end up in a prolonged debate as to who's in and out of this particular proposal. The other thing that does worry me is the way the elections are carried out. And I think, you know, if there's anything we can do to ensure that they are proportional, and therefore perhaps we avoid the risk of getting someone that people really don't want because of the nature of the electoral system that's used, then so much the better. And perhaps we could make some attempts to ensure that we get the right electoral system. Thank you.
Councillor Reid.
Thank you. And in fact, there's been debate in this group for quite some time on this, and I'll be open. I used the word mayoral nonsense on that debate. And it's good to hear some points in there. And on reflecting, maybe I'll withdraw that word nonsense. I think it is not only our responsibility to make this work through councils, to petition whoever the new mayors are, but also our MPs as well. We are in the unfortunate position where grants to rural areas, as Councillor Bowick has said, are significantly lower. We've lost lots of youth amenities in rural areas, typically only relying on things like guides and scouts to provide any engagement with the youth in our areas or with church groups. But I think if us as councillors, through our council and through our MPs, can convince mayors to get a louder voice with Parliament to increase those grants into rural areas, especially in areas of youth, but also in affordable housing, planning reform, I think that would be good. I still have my concern that a mayor, maybe sitting in Sonning or Slough or Windsor, will be sitting there with a map in front of him, large wax crayon, and going, oh, there's a lovely bit of green sitting between Tilehurst and Thiel and Thatcham, you know, and that would be good for a new town because I can't build in that lovely A and B. Still have those concerns, but as we say from Councillor Jeffries, it's down to us to make it work, and it's going to happen to us. And so I think putting our will behind it and just biting the bullet and making the most of it is probably our only option. Thank you.
Councillor Culver, sorry for missing you out earlier.
That's okay. Thank you very much, Chairman. I just want to start off by acknowledging the amount of work that Councillor Pemberton has put into this. I'm conscious you've got a lot on your plate, Councillor Pemberton, and at the rate it's going, the font on your nameplate is going to be so small we won't be able to read it. I'm very conscious with this. There is a danger that government policy is devolution in name, but not in practice. We could end up with a situation where Ridgeway Council is accepted as a proposal, and we have a centre of decision making, say in Didcot or maybe even in Abingdon, as some people are speculating, and we could have a mayor in Reading or Oxford, and people are actually going to feel as if the decisions are being taken further away from where they live. The Green Party very much believes in the principle of subsidiarity in making decisions at the lowest level possible, as close to the people as possible. We think in this whole process of devolution and local government reorganisation, there needs to be serious consideration of how we empower parish and town councils as well. I have the honour of being on the Public Service Reform and Innovation Committee at the Local Government Association, and we are talking in a great amount of detail about these issues, and we are pulling together concerns of councillors from across the whole country and from across all parties. We're quite concerned at the moment that there's not very much guidance on things like scrutiny, so it's not clear how the mayors will be scrutinised and how the hard-working local authority leaders and opposition leaders and so on might be involved in that. When it comes to big key decisions, will we have a situation where it's one member, one vote? You might have 3 local authority leaders and a mayor. How will they make those important decisions? Could we have 3 different people from one party and then 1 individual from another party? And will the 3 be able to essentially gang up on the one and force them to take housing or to take a hit on economic development in their area? So I think it's really important that those issues are looked at. And as colleagues have mentioned, there is a risk of having a populist mayor. There's even been speculation that it might be someone like Jeremy Clarkson. I mean, obviously, democracy is democracy, and whoever that ends up being, we have to live with that. But I would echo what Councillor Taylor said about having some kind of proportional election. So yes, that's my 4 penneth worth, and as I say, acknowledging the hard work that Councillor Pemberton has put into that. I will also be voting against it on principle because of the Green Party's position on this particular issue. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Culver. And now we have Councillor Gourley.
Yes, thanks, Chair. And I think thank you to everyone that's spoken so far. It's been some good, interesting points. And I think there's a couple that I would kind of just push back on gently, shall we say. First, I'll start with Mr. Councillor Abbs's democratic deficit. Looking at the last Wash Common by-election result, it was 29%. And I think we know that local elections do have their challenges in turnout as well. And I think that's down to us to do better. I think we need politicians to do better to drive up that turnout. You know, it's within our gift to have the right candidates, to have the right policies, to really drive that turnout and get people to turn out in the first place. It pains me that turnout is low in local elections and is on the decline in general elections. So I do think that's down to us as local leaders, as politicians, to do a better job in being out there and bringing people out to vote effectively and giving them something to come out and vote for. In terms of people and young children, I think that's a really great question, Councillor Bowick. And as someone who's got 2 young children, that plays in my mind a lot with the decisions I make and the thoughts that I have. And I kind of made a note of what I would like to see in this, and that would be around better life choices, better links and access to opportunities, more housing, jobs, social mobility and freedom of choice, I think. And I'll let Councillor Pemberton come back to your original question. From a portfolio perspective, a lot of what the Mayoral Strategic Authority can bring is that support around climate change, nature recovery and also transport and in general. And I think we do need to have a more strategic look at these things. And I think that's where councils can struggle. It must be a bit like herding cats sometimes to get things done cross-border. And I think sometimes we do need that more longer-term strategic view of these things. You know, here in West Berkshire, for example, we've got the M4, the A34, it borders the A33, we've got the A4, all quite strategic routes on the network that connect east, west, north and south. And I, for one, would quite like to see a north-south railway come back to the area so we can take a bit of pressure off of the A34, for example, something I don't believe that at a council level we'd ever be able to deliver. We'd have to heard about 15 councils, 35,000 MPs, and none of them are going to decide. So we do need to have that coalition of the willing there, and I think something an MSA can bring. And on climate change and the nature recovery, it's not border specific, it crosses borders. And I do think we need to have that strategic view when it comes to climate change. We don't have the time to wait. And I honestly don't think that government can deliver that. And I think we need to make that more strategic, more local than national government, and really link in with those councils and those council leaders to drive that agenda forward to best suit West Berkshire and whatever that Thames Valley will be.
Thank you very much, Councillor Gourley. I don't see any more hands up. There's a microphone on, Councillor Culver still, if you could turn that one on.
Yeah.
I will now invite Councillor Brooks, who reserved his right to speak.
Well, I note, Chairman, the varying levels of enthusiasm across the council, but I don't subscribe to staying out of it and saying I'm having nothing to do with it, because the reality is it is likely to happen, and I always believe in being involved, so I might be able to shape the outcome. And what we're doing basically is saying we're having nothing to do with it, we don't need it, and therefore you can be sure that if you get a mayor imposed upon you, you won't have helped fashion that. This is an expression of interest. It's saying to the government, we're going to work up a submission about this time next year, and you'll be able to read that and say, this is how we want it to work. This is how we see it working. And golly gee, you know, it's been working up and down the country. There are models in place, there are mayors in place and have been in place for quite a long time. You can go and look at how that works. You can maybe wish to tune it locally, but we're not pioneering anything here. We're saying we want to be involved. Unitary councils will still deliver children and family services. Unitary councils will still develop local plans. Unitary councils will do all the things they do now. But above them, there will be somebody involved in the skills development, business development, economic development, cross-border infrastructure, which at the moment, if you wanted to put 4 lanes up the A34, you'd have to deal with 5 or 6, 7 councils. Try getting them all to agree. A mayor is in place across the country. You can look at it, whether you're enthusiastic or not, you can look at it and you can see how it works, and we can see what works and what doesn't and try and tune the future rather than have it done to us. Now, Councillor Abbs, perhaps you wish us to go to the Australian system where people are mandated to vote. People vote here and people make sometimes an absolute decision to abstain, and I respect them if they don't want to vote. It doesn't sound like you do. And Councillor Marsh, Councillor Culver, we're having nothing to do with it. The Greens are having nothing to do with it. We don't believe in it. So why in 2024 did Zoe Garbett of the Green Party stand for the London Mayor? Why in 2024 did Mary Page of the Green Party stand for the West of England Mayor? Why did Anna Collar stand for the Mayor of Hampshire and Isle of Wight? So if you're going to be, take a position, please be consistent and don't stand anybody in the mayoral elections. This is the right thing to do for this council this time, is to show support for an expression of interest, to get involved and help shape this future if this is what's coming down the line. And that's why we will support it on this side. Thank you.
Would the mover, Councillor Pemberton, like to summate?
Thank you very much indeed, Chair. So yet again, I find myself opening by thanking the officers for the big piece of work that's been done to get us to this stage, and the elected members that have been involved as well. Lots of different leaders' summits and discussions that have taken place to get us to where we are now, and a piece of work that we hadn't necessarily anticipated even a year ago. I'm grateful to Councillor Culver for her comments on my input into this, but I do also have to lean on Councillor Brooks as well, who's taken a lot of the load here. Do you know, if this wasn't just an expression of interest, I could understand some of the concerns that were coming back from our members, and I genuinely understand those concerns. Of course I do. We all want to know that we are being represented appropriately, and we all want to know that we are getting the best value for our vote and a good shake for our area. But I don't think stepping away from a process and saying, look, we don't want anything to do with it because it works a particular way, I don't think is the right thing either. Absolutely, the elected representatives should be as close to their residents as they possibly can. And I truly believe that there is a part to play at all levels of government, from the parishes upwards. I'm not standing here tonight saying that the mayor will have a solution to every single funding and structural issue that this district and this region faces. Of course I'm not. There's always going to be a role for that first tier of government. All of the stuff that we talked about with Ridgeway Council, the proposed Ridgeway Council, West Berkshire Council, if it's called upon and we continue, will still be providing those core services. They'll still be providing those children's services, making sure our children are getting the best education and looking after our vulnerable children. We're still going to have a local plan. The parishes, who are the most closest to their residents, are still going to be scooping up a lot of those residents' concerns. And they've got a massive part to play in local government reorganisation, just as local government reorganisation has got a huge part to play in devolution. But we still face our challenges. And I do agree with a lot of what Councillor Bowick said. We do need to make sure that we're keeping an eye on our children. And we do need to make sure that those rural communities are not left behind. That means lots and lots of different things. That means making sure that those rural communities have got the services that they need. It means that we've got to take a more strategic approach to our planning. Nobody likes planning. Nobody likes lots and lots of houses appearing near to them or in their wards. I get that. I've been through it myself with the local plan, and we all know what happened with Thatcham North East. But the fact of the matter is, in this district, because of a lot of those planning constraints, we're just not in a position to build enough of the houses that we need. And we do need more houses because we want people to come and work here, and we want people to come and live here. On the issue of education specifically, Councillor Bowick, nobody cares about children's welfare more than I. I've mentioned it before. I'm a foster carer of two teenage children. We do have some fantastic education institutions in this district at every level. At further education level, we've got Newbury College, but we've also got other colleges across Berkshire and across Oxfordshire that do some of that heavy lifting as well. Reading College, lots and lots of different education institutions. The Berkshire College of Agriculture, Bracknell and Wokingham College, the Henley College, institutions that are providing services, but are they overlapping? Is there a more strategic way that we can do it? Potentially, that is where the mayor comes in. Are we building houses? Are we identifying housing shortfalls in the right places? Those are the kind of things that the mayor can come in and look at. And finally, to Councillor Wolston's point, you're right to refer to the fact that we've spoken of a Thames Valley mayoral strategic authority. That is because this is an expression of interest, and that geography is still yet to be determined. Extensive conversations have taken place between the leaders of the Berkshire authorities, the leaders of those Oxfordshire authorities. Swindon have been in the room when some of those conversations have taken place. There is an ongoing conversation to be had there. So far, Buckinghamshire have said it's not interested. It's a movable feast. It's an expression of interest. Let's see where we get to as those conversations develop and as we submit this expression of interest to government, assuming members are minded to back it. But let's not rule anything in or out, because by having an open mind, that's how you tend to get the best outcomes, in my opinion.
Thank you, Councillor Pemberton. Now, before we all vote on this, I just want to remind you exactly what we are voting on. So I'm going to read out the full recommendations, which is in 4 parts, particularly for the benefit of those members of the public who might be listening and not have the papers in front of them. You are being asked to vote that the full council is informed of the benefits of the proposed devolution of powers and functions and agrees to continue building on the collaborative approach across the region to date. Secondly, to note that the informal devolution board will oversee discussions with government, ensuring that robust governance and stakeholder engagement by elected members takes place throughout the process. Thirdly, that full council recommends that the executive approves the expression of interest, or EOI, to authorise the council to submit this to government, noting that the EOI is designed to proactively position the Thames Valley for early consideration in the next wave of the devolution programme. And finally, that full council supports that a further report will be brought to council and executive prior to any final decision on the creation of a strategic authority. So, Deputy Monitoring Officer, will you now conduct the vote, please?
Thank you, Chairman. If I could take a show of hands of all those in favour. Any against? And any abstentions? Thank you. I can confirm that's been carried.
Thank you, members. Right, I move on to item 11, the Public Protection Partnership Shared Service Agreement. May I invite Councillor Tom McCann to formally move the recommendation contained within the report.
Thank you, Chairman.
Day at this stage. May I call for a seconder, please?
Chairman, I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor Pemberton. And you wish to reserve your right?
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So now, Councillor McCann, would you like to introduce the report?
Thank you, Chairman. I raised this at the exec. I was so chuffed and surprised and happy when I'd read what was happening when I first came onto the council, because Wokingham at the time had disengaged from the process. And when I came back in, when it was suggested I get involved in this portfolio, and I engaged with the senior officers in Bracknell and Wokingham and indeed this council, I was so happy that they'd actually resolved a lot of the issues before I come along. And that's a lot to do with Justin as well, because he's put a lot of work into this. Our senior officers, informal and formal chats to bring this team back together. It's been a lot of hard work. There's been a couple of bumps along the road. We've managed to engage Wokingham and allowing them to have a shadow member there at our meetings so they could get up to speed and be comfortable with our process. I think the future does look good for the three of us working together within the authorities. There will be anomalies. There will be issues that Wokingham will need to bring to our attention and vice versa around the three authorities. Section 2.5A, B and C is actually the recommendations on page 48 for those members who are particularly keen on following this. My recommendation is that we accept the proposal before us this evening. We move forward. We will present reports as and when they come up. I think we've got quarterly reports here from the JPPC. They are sometimes very, very data orientated and can lead to some disengagement of members because it can be very, very technical. But the officers behind this work are very skilled officers. I've got nothing but praise for my team who've run me through and walked me through a lot of the issues. It's a very broad remit, and they do everything from online fraud to vapes. There's all kinds of things that we do as an organisation. I look forward to working with Wokingham. They have had indirect input on some of the directions that we're looking to go down the road. There is some future work to do. I don't want to spend too long because I feel that we already are down the road of agreeing something which is useful. We're finally back on track, and I look forward to working the three authorities together very closely. So thank you very much for your time, Chair.
Thank you. I will now open the debate, and starting with Councillor Wollaston.
Thank you, Chair. As shadow portfolio holder I'm just sorry. As shadow portfolio holder for public safety, as far as I'm concerned, it's welcome back Wokingham. I was very disappointed to see when they broke away from what I thought was a very successful organisation operation. And our officers, as rightly said, do a fantastic job, and we are the lead authority. So I would 100% support this proposal.
Thank you, Councillor Woolston. Councillor Culver.
Thank you, Chairman. I also welcome Wokingham's return to this partnership, and I just want to echo what Councillor McCann said. I think the work that the officers do is excellent. Environmental health in my helped me out in my ward. There was a social housing property that had mould on the walls. You could touch the walls and feel the damp. The electrics were hanging off the wall, and the resident was getting absolutely nowhere with the social housing provider. And environmental health came out literally within 2 hours, condemned that living room and forced that social housing provider to go and sort that property out for that lady. So I think their work is exceptional, and I would just like to praise them this evening. Thank you.
Councillor Burke.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Councillor McCann. Yes, I'm very pleased that we're going back to a situation that pertained before. Of course, there is a change in the agreement, isn't there? And my concern is that that with the establishment or the re-establishment of the Joint Protection Committee, then the kind of the governance is moving a little further away from full councillors at the moment. So my concern, of course, as you can guess, is the outcomes for our children and young people. So I guess what I'd like to understand is what specific priorities will be given to the issues that hit our children the hardest. And I'm not thinking about we were talking about schools earlier on and the colleges. I'm thinking about the children who are disadvantaged in our communities. So the kind of issues I think that we have concern about are housing conditions. You mentioned that earlier on. Pollution levels near schools and underage sales of vapes and alcohol. That's just some ideas, and I'd like to know what specific priorities you'll be giving to that. And again, going back to measurement, I'd like to know what the single most important child-related improvement that you expect to see. And if you could tell us that now, great. If you want to come back in the future, I'll ask again. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Burke. Members, I can see no other hands up at the moment, so I invite Councillor Kanda. Councillor Kanda.
Thank you, and yes, I too would welcome Wokинgham back. I have a little failing to understand the financial part of the report, because it seems to imply that it's no cost, and then at the end of the day, it also says there is some cost. So I don't know if you can answer that now, whether or not that's something we have to come back to. So it talks about additional access to grants, and it talks about 250k grants being removed, or some grants 200k being removed, and then it talks about an additional injection of 250k required. So it's just a little confusing for me, and I've read it 3 times sitting in, I still can't work it out. So would appreciate some form of clarity on that. Thank you.
Councillor Aluki.
Thank you, Chairman. I think the concept is sound, because you're talking about the benefits of economies of scale. So it does make sense. I have a personal experience, so maybe with this concept of trading standards, because there was a particular issue with a store in my area where the food that they displayed had expired, and I think there was all kinds of funny stuff growing on it. And I was trying to reach out to trading standards about it, and I couldn't find anyone. So my experience of it is we need to know more about what is, particularly those of us on the hinterland or on the edges. So don't forget there are some people on the edges. And like I said last time, don't leave anyone behind, right? So please, it's an admonition to understand more and to be able to connect with what the trading standards does, because I ended up having to write to these people about it when I actually felt trading standards should have come to look at it, which they didn't.
Thank you, Councillor Lucky. Right, I think we're ready for summations to start. Councillor Pemberton as the seconder, please.
Thanks very much, Chair. I'm delighted with this proposal. I remember when I first became a portfolio holder in the summer of 2024, and I first got to find out the range of services that the Public Protection Partnership involves itself with. It is a vast, vast array of different public protection issues, and not just the things that we might think about around licensing and trading standards. It's all of the things that we've referred to already around our young people, keeping our young people safe and keeping some of our older, more vulnerable residents safe and protecting them from scams. I was always extremely keen to see Wokingham come back into that partnership because, subject to Councillor Kander's comment around some of the costs involved with this new arrangements, I believe the strength in numbers and some of the economies of scale that Councillor Oloko have referred to, they're undeniable. And the fact that this service is a joint one has given it access to funding, particularly around some of the work that's been done to prevent scams, which it wouldn't otherwise have had access to. And I've seen firsthand some of the work that the team have done to prevent scams. Stuff that you wouldn't even think of, from call blockers all the way up to pursuing rogue builders and negotiating the payment of rogue invoices on the consumer's behalf. Really, really in-depth stuff. It's absolutely incredible work. And it's a shame, it was always a shame to see Wokingham go, and it's great to see that they're now coming back again. Wokingham never fully left, of course, because it was still paying into the budget and it was still purchasing services. It just didn't get a say in some of those decisions, some of those strategic decisions, and when some of those priorities were set. In a previous meeting where we discussed this, I referred to the B word, and I'm not going to, but it's great to see Wokingham back again, because they always had a place in that partnership, and now we can see them back on the committee again with full voting rights, so that the service can carry on doing the great work that it always has been. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pemberton. And now finally for Councillor McCann to summate.
Thank you, Chair. It's really quite a difficult one to get key performance indicators. At the last count, I think we were over 50 key performance indicators. 9 or 10 were ours, and then 9 or 10 other people, 9 or 10, and it was the way it was all mashed up. It was really quite convoluted. So we're asking the officers to go away and make this more member friendly, so we can actually measure things without getting dive too deeply down into the details. As far as children's improvement, I will instruct my officers to contact you, and perhaps they could lead you through to what they're looking to do in the future. And of course, the financial questions, I'll again instruct my officers to contact you and perhaps explain in a bit more detail, because sometimes things don't leap off the page and there's a backstory to this that you can't always present to members. As far as legislative and regulatory things, there's literally about 140 different laws and regulations that we have to follow. And quite frankly, we have a lead officer called Sean. He's absolutely brilliant. How his mind doesn't explode with the detail, the knowledge that he's got. And we have to really praise this officer. I think he's been here for something like 40 years or something like that. He's absolutely wonderful, and it really should be highlighted for keeping this sort of work together, because it can be mind-numbing sometimes. Most of us do this part-time, and we jump in and with a great willingness to help and offer suggestions, and then you go, actually, they are the experts in this. So we do take directions, we do lead, but one of the issues Wokingham did pull up originally was they felt it was being done to, rather than being inclusive. And I've made sure that my team and other members around in Bracknell and Wokingham fully understand this is a collective. We work together. We do not do two. They are involved in the budget. They are involved in the decisions, the future planning. And there is no resistance from the officer team to make sure that that happens, so we do not drift into the same type of outcome that we had a couple of years ago. So at that point, I'd like to just summarise by turning and saying, I'd like to welcome Wokingham back and invite the council to agree with me what wonderful work our officers have done on our behalf. And thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor McCann. Just again to remind you, page 48 is where the key actions that we're recommending is. The first 2.1 to 2.3 are just to note. 2.4, that the service lead for public protection in conjunction with the service lead for legal and democratic services be authorised to enter into this agreement on behalf of West Berkshire Council, and that Council approves the following recommendations A, B and C, that we extend the delegation of the Council public protection related functions to the Joint Public Protection Committee until 31st March 2029, that Wokingham Borough Council becomes a full member and all other government arrangements, and that the terms be based on those set out in the original shared service agreement of 2017, and that the terms of reference and relevant sections of the Constitution and Part 6.5 of Council Bodies Rules be amended to reflect all of this. So may I invite the Deputy Monitoring Officer to conduct the vote now.
Thank you, Chairman. If I could have a show of hands of all those in favour. Thank you. Any against? And any abstentions? Thank you. I can confirm that that's been carried.
Thank you. Council, we now have item 12, Constitution changes to Part 8 Contract Rules and Part 13 Appendix D. May I invite Councillor Jeff Brooks to formally move the recommendation contained in the report?
Happy so to move, Chairman.
And a seconder comes from Councillor Cottingham.
I'll
Thank
second.
you. You reserve your right.
I do.
Councillor Brooks, could you please introduce the report?
Thank you, Chairman. The two recommendations are around Part 8, Contract Rules, and Part 13, Appendix D, Protocol for the use of ICT equipment supplied to members, and that to take immediate effect. The contract rules were, of course, the Constitution is a living document. It's changing constantly, frankly. But the contract rules in particular, the Procurement Act of 2023, meant that we needed to look at this. We needed to look at the delegated authority levels, and we've done that, and we brought them in and streamlined them and made them more appropriate. I can give assurance that there is plenty of checks and balances even on this increased delegated authority value of a contract. Bear in mind also, this goes through the Constitution Review Task Group, that's cross-party. It goes through the Governance Committee and it has gone through. So it's had a fair bit of scrutiny before it's got here tonight. So I'm actually recommending it. Clearly, Constitution Review Task Group continues its work. We're getting there. It's a little bit circular. As soon as we've finished it, we start again. We have now got it in a single document and more navigable. We can do more, but we're making progress. And I see no reason why the Chamber, the Council should not support this, but I'm clearly happy to take questions or comments and respond to them in my summation. But for now, Chairman, I don't have any more to add. It's in the paperwork, and I'll leave it to the members to consider.
Thank you, Councillor Brooks. Are there any, I will now open a debate on this. If anybody wishes to speak, show me your hand. Councillor Wollaston. Councillor Kanda to follow.
Could you possibly, probably for Councillor Cottingham, just clarify what the situation is when there's a spend of over 2.5 million, exactly what process that goes through for approval?
That was a quick question. Right.
More likely to be me.
All right.
Sorry.
If you could turn your mic off, please, Councillor Wilson. Councillor Kanda.
Slightly similar question in as much as the delegated authority is out for a single vendor, single project. But otherwise, there's a chance of things being salami sliced up and it still being a big project, just being delegated in lots of different ways. If you could answer that or find out, thank you.
Any other members wish to ask any such questions or comments? I see none. So moving straight on to Councillor Cottingham as the seconder.
Thank you very much, Chair. To answer Councillor Candace's question regarding salami slicing, that it will be all part of the purchase order monitoring system. We will prevent that happening. That is a well-known risk from a procurement perspective that even from a fraud control, internal control, that's, you know, what will happen. A project will be brought for approval, and the actual cost of that will be ascertained. And yes, no, that won't happen, that someone salami slices something up below that limit. That's definitely a no-no. I'll let Councillor Brooks answer the 2.5 million question. Just on one thing from a personal perspective, everyone in the room, regarding the PC policy, within 4.7, the recommendation is that we put it all on our household insurance. So it's just for housekeeping. Many of your household insurance probably don't need to have an item which is less than £1,000, and I think our laptops are less than £1,000, but it's well worth checking if you have to tell your insurer. And also 4.9, there's a slight change that ideally you look at your emails on a daily basis. Hopefully that's Monday to Friday, not Saturday and Sunday. It doesn't specify, but I hope it's just Monday to Friday. At least we have some time off ourselves. So from my perspective, it's gone through various governance within the organisation. So I move this report.
Councillor Brooks, you are actually the one to move it, but we've had it seconded formally.
Okay, thank you. Contracts, of course, are advertised on our website in accordance with the rules around tendering. And in addition, there are robust internal governance processes in place around contracts that include members as part of their individual responsibility as portfolio holders. And proposed contracts awarded are independently scrutinised through the procurement board, of which the executive member for procurement and commissioning is able to attend and speak. The details of these contracts are approved by executive members either through a meeting or with consultation of portfolio holders. These are publicly available, and decisions are made on notice in accordance with the statutory rules, i.e. 5 clear working days, unless there is a genuine urgency arising. And just to reiterate that the thresholds proposed, they align with the statutory position. There are no changes to the key decision thresholds. So that's the thing to be clear about in terms of the raising of that threshold limit, which hadn't been looked at for over 10 years. This is aligns with the statutory position. So let's pick off Councillor Candor first, who sat there smiling wryly. And it may be that either he's played a game of trying to get through some procurement by breaking it up into bits, into financial packages just underneath the authorisation rules, or he's been subject to it. And I've probably done it both ways. But there is vigilance there. You have to be very vigilant about it, as Councillor Cottingham says we will be and are. And clearly also, if we were to find it, and I haven't yet, the sanction will be pretty severe because that is disingenuous, frankly. Now, there are occasions, clearly, where with a computer system, with change control, you do go through actually going beyond a certain valuation, but that all comes back as well through that procurement board process. As to the 2.5 million, you'll remember, Councillor Wollaston, that is something that has to go through the executive, what you used to call member and officer group. It goes through there. Executive members have line of sight of it. They agree that that can go forward. That hasn't changed. And again, it's picked up through procurement board. So I hope that's reassuring and that members are comfortable to support this. Thank you for those questions, and I hope I've answered them as well as you would hope. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Brooks. Well, it's a very simple set of recommendations, although the second part is very personal to all of us. It's our ICT equipment that we're talking about. So may I ask the Deputy Monitoring Officer to conduct the vote on the following, that they be considered and approved.
Thank you, Chairman. If I could have a show of hands of all those in favour. Thank you. Any against? And any abstentions? Thank you. I can confirm that that's been carried.
Moving now to agenda item 13, we're doing quite well, members. The 26-27 West Berkshire Council timetable of public meetings. We have to at least go through the motions of a motion. So may I invite Councillor Jeff Brooks to formally move the recommendation contained in the report.
Happy so to move, Chairman.
And do I have a seconder? Councillor Cottingham again, yes. I see.
Second. Yeah.
I get it right. I'd like to introduce the report, Councillor Brooks.
Very happy to introduce it. This is, of course, a technical matter, really, that we agree our timetable. I'm sure all members look at it straight away and go, okay, there are areas here when I can't go on holiday because there's a full council meeting or whatever. And I do hope everybody does that, particularly on this side. And avoid those times when your holiday may get in the way of attending these very important council meetings. I always look to see what happens on May the 10th, because that's my wedding anniversary. 40 years next year, by the way. And it will be a long-suffering but wonderful person. And it would not be the first time, if it doesn't clash next year, that she will have been waiting for me to finish the meeting, run outside, get in the car and go for a meal on May the 10th, for heaven's sake. So it's going to work. The officers make it work. And I thank them, because it ain't an easy task, because they're also trying to calibrate and synchronize with parish council meetings and town council meetings. And Councillor Jeffrey has given me a lot of earache. It's a technical expression about having meetings on certain days when town councils tend to have them. But I think we've come to the right solution, as we always do, and we'll make it work. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councillor Brooks. I can reassure you that May the 10th is a Sunday, so you'll be all right. I now open this to debate. Anybody wish to say anything? I see no hands. So, Councillor Cottingham, do you wish to say anything?
No.
Councillor Brooks, anything more to add?
Nothing more to add.
Can we please have the vote conducted then?
Thank you, Chairman. Can I have a show of hands of all those in favour? And that's been carried unanimously. Thank you, members.
Item 14, notices of motion. Council has received a motion on notice, submitted in the name of Councillor David Marsh. Please could you move your motion?
Thank you, Chair. I move.
Can I see if there's a seconder, please? Councillor Tolworth, thank you.
Second, yeah, thank you,
Yep.
Chairman.
Now invite Councillor Marsh to speak to the motion. You have up to 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Chair. Members of Council, as our motion states, swifts are one of the oldest species on Earth, and I'm very happy to have 5 minutes to talk about these wonderful creatures. They spend more time airborne than any other bird, up to 3 years on the wing without landing. Incredible. Yet when they come home to us. They're on the brink, however. They just need a brick with a hole in it. And 20,000 bricks make up the average two-storey new house. All we're asking is that a tiny proportion of these bricks should have nesting holes costing about £30 each to save a species and preserve an entire category of birds who live alongside us. We can't rely on a government that has declared bats, newts and snails to be the enemy. In opposition, Labour promised to support a legal requirement for cavity nesting swift bricks to be incorporated into new buildings. But in the House of Lords earlier this month, the government instructed Labour peers to block this proposal when it was put forward by Conservative Lord Goldsmith with all party support. So having flown thousands of miles to breed in the UK, Swifts find their traditional nesting sites not available. They're blocked up. The ancient forests with nest hollows are largely gone. They've come to rely on cavities in buildings, but these too are disappearing with modern building methods. This has led to a 2/3 decline in the species since 1995, with 40% of that loss occurring in the last 10 years alone. In the face of this dereliction of responsibility by the government towards the natural world, local councils are showing that they care. Conservative-controlled Rushcliffe Borough Council in Nottinghamshire unanimously passed a motion very similar to the one before us this evening, ensuring that at least half of new homes in that borough will include swift bricks, backing this up with the section of their local plan that, like ours, supports environmental protection and biodiversity. The council's Conservative portfolio holder for business and growth said, swifts are one of our most iconic birds, but due to declining insects, modern farming methods and loss of habitat and suitable nesting sites, there has been a serious impact on their numbers, meaning they are now on the RSPB red list of threatened species. We have many new buildings, but few, if any, provide suitable nesting sites for birds such as swifts. Including these bricks in new buildings has the potential to halt the decline of swifts while providing a safe nesting place for many other types of small birds in a permanent, discreet and maintenance-free way. Meanwhile, Devon County Council, led by Liberal Democrat and Green Party councillors, has installed swift boxes at County Hall in Exeter and is rolling out a programme of swift bricks and audio lures to attract breeding pairs of swifts at council-owned properties, as well as promoting the installation of swift nesting sites when the district councils across the county grant planning permission for new developments. That's just two of many authorities that are taking action to help swifts and other small birds to survive. We can join them. Members, far from this being a regulatory burden, this proposal is good for developers as well as nature. It offers them a straightforward, inexpensive and visible way to demonstrate that when planning permission is granted, promises to protect wildlife and enhance biodiversity are not just words, but can really make a difference. This is an opportunity for developers in partnership with the council to deliver for nature. Think of all the new homes that are going to be built in Sandalford, Thatcham and elsewhere in West Berkshire. Think of all the council-owned buildings, including schools where the children love to see nesting birds in their playground and grounds. Let's be a council that is proud to provide spaces for nature alongside places for people. Our relationship with nature, how we appreciate our natural surroundings, is vital in keeping us physically, emotionally and psychologically healthy. So by helping swifts, we are doing the right thing for humans. By incorporating swift brick nests into these buildings, we can help to save an iconic and irreplaceable species, and for a couple of months of the year each spring, bring a little joy into the lives of our residents. This is biodiversity net gain in action. I hope that if and when this motion returns to full council, members will give it their full support. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Marsh. Please note that Council will not debate this motion this evening. It is a matter, as you've alluded to, that it would have to be decided as a planning policy matter by Council, because I believe that it's much safer for us in the face of an appeal to show that we have taken the advice of officers. It will be referred in accordance with Procedure Rule 12.6.2 to the Resources and Place Scrutiny Committee, which is chaired by your colleague, the seconder of the motion. This will enable input of that committee and expert officers before the motion would then come back to Council for debate if it's necessary, it's felt necessary to change policy. Thank you, Councillor Calvert. There is no debate tonight. I think we've discussed this privately.
Very quick point, if I may, Chairman. I'm not aware of any petitions having come to us before. We have got quite a packed agenda. I think the next full council is March, and we may not get to look at this until after that. So just to say, it's a bit of a shame it's going to take us so long to do that. But yeah, just to make that point.
Let's not prejudge the outcome of place and scrutiny, resources and place scrutiny. We have end of March, as you say, the chance to bring it back by then. You have your scrutiny, I believe, well before that. No? Anyway, we will, that is the advice I've got, and I think it would be unsafe to approve a change of policy at Council tonight without expert advice from our officers. Under our constitution now, we have the right of the portfolio holder, Councillor Denise Gaines, to speak to the motion, and you also have up to 5 minutes if you need. Councillor Gaines.
Thank you, Chair. I won't need as much as that. Thank you, Councillor Marsh, for this motion. This is obviously a very real problem with, according to the RSPB, which you mentioned, swifts are on the red list of birds conservation concern in the UK, with their numbers falling by 62% between 1995 and 2021. Despite this, both the House of Lords and the government in their Planning and Infrastructure Bill were originally going to implement planning policies to try to redress the loss of our swift population. Unfortunately, this has not been done thus far. In fact, the Secretary of State for Housing, Communities and Local Government, Steve Reed MP, committed to mandating this policy when he was the Environment Secretary, but now has done a U-turn. We do have some paragraphs within SP 11 on our local plan on conservation enhancement of the environment, but nothing currently within our local plan to address the specific issues you've raised. However, policy SP7 of our local plan does state design proposals will create habitats and select species that are locally characteristic, taking opportunities to design wildlife habitats into the fabric of buildings and enhance wildlife connectivity in accordance with policy SP11. Just as a final comment, there has recently been a development approved within this district, which has a condition to include Swift bricks as a percentage of total dwellings. So I welcome this motion being debated at Resources and Place Scrutiny Committee. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Gaines. And of course, I think it's within your gift to call perhaps a special meeting of your committee, Councillor Culver, but it's worth thinking about anyway. Moving to agenda item 15, members' questions. I wish to thank the members who did submit questions. These questions will appear on screen and will be answered by the relevant portfolio holder. Questioner will then be given the opportunity to ask a supplementary question. This should only be clarified
on screen.
Yes, I will come to that in a minute when I've finished the preamble. The questioner will then be given the opportunity to ask a supplementary question. This should only be clarified to clarify the response, provided it must not introduce any new business. Councillor McKinnon, I'm told you wish to speak because they're your questions.
Yes, please, Chairman.
Go ahead, please.
Well, I think, is the question going to be answered and then I'll come back supplementary?
Yes, I'm happy that the question
you're going to guess the answer and then I'm going to give you a supplementary question. Change the constitution tonight, Councillor McKinnon. No, sorry, I jest. You'll be happy to know that I'm going to answer your question just now. So yes, thank you for the question. When we make a proposal to change a speed limit, the police are consulted and make their comments on the specific proposal that is in front of them. So it's difficult for me to answer as the police have not yet been consulted on all of those locations. They have, however, provided some general comments stating, Thames Valley Police welcome the opportunity to engage on plans for road safety improvements and acknowledge that 20-mile-an-hour limits can be a useful road safety tool. The policy of Thames Valley Police is to use sound, practical and realistic criteria set in the Department for Transport guidance on introducing speed limits when responding to highway authorities in an effort to promote consistency and to reduce the burden of constant and unnecessary enforcement. Do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, thanks, Councillor Gurley. Have the police advised you against any specific proposals which are now being progressed?
We are in the current process of reviewing the consultations for Thatcham and other areas. There are some that are coming to our ID in the next few weeks, individual decision in the next few weeks, and we'll also be working through the Thatcham consultation responses in the coming weeks.
Well, that's not a no then. Very interesting.
Thank you. You have another question, Councillor McKinnon. Sorry, there was a rumour going around that somebody else would be asking the question on your behalf. That's why I...
Oh, never believe rumours, Chairman.
Oh, good. Carry on. You're asking question B then, Councillor Brooks.
Thank you, Councillor McKinnon. Thank you for your question. As mentioned previously, the consultation is in line with regulations for statutory consultations, which state that the council must inform objectors of the decision at the end of the process, and hence why their details were asked for in the first instance. However, you may have heard me say earlier in the evening, and I'm repeating it now, that we acknowledge we can make this better, and we will be amending future consultations to ask for personal details for all respondents, not just objectors as per legislation. Do you have a supplementary?
I do, thank you, Councillor Brooks. I did hear your answer to Mr. Garvey earlier on. I've been listening with interest to the whole meeting, actually. And you said that you didn't think the consultation was flawed. I just wonder if you would ask, if, at the next local elections, if voters had to provide more details in order to vote Lib Dem than they did to vote Conservative, would you consider that a fair result? And would you think it was good enough to say, oh, well, we'll do better next time?
Ho, ho, ho. Right at the end of the meeting, we get something frivolous.
It's a serious question, Councillor Brooks.
Not a serious question at all. Not a serious.
It's exactly what's happening. Voters have to provide more details to go one way than another.
I repeat the answer I've given you. We are adapting this process as people have asked us so to do. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Sound a bit rattled, Jeff.
Right, members, that is the end of tonight's meeting. I wish to thank everyone for their attendance and I formally close the meeting. Please could the Zoom host end the broadcast?
Please be outstanding for the Chairman of Council.